Begin the recording. Thank you, and welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service this week. I'm your current president, Sally Gasco. Thank you so much for being here. We ask you to please remain on mute if you're not speaking to improve the sound quality for everyone else. Natalie, can you now show the flag? And we'll have a few moments of respectful silence. Dave Meyer, I am going to ask you to please give the reflection.
Natalie or Michael, can you give me screen share, please, or co-host?
You've got it.
Looks like I have it now. Thank you all. So I gave a reflection a few months ago, some of you may remember, that was about a hobby I picked up during the pandemic, which was fossil collecting. And in that reflection, I talked about what I had learned about mass extinctions and fossils and how that related to humans and whatnot, which was all very serious. But I decided I would like to do another reflection on that whole thing from a totally different angle, which was, my own personal experience with this pandemic-induced hobby, fossil collecting. And so this is a totally different take. And so what I'd like to do is show you a few slides as I talk here. Let's make this. All right. So when you do, when one does fossil collecting in Indiana, where I've been going, you spend a lot of time at places like this big road cut in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And if you can believe it, every rock that you see has a fossil in it. And it's actually in the very center of that screen is my loving wife, Cindy, who is a dot in the very center of the screen where she's collecting fossils. And so, it requires, doing this with a friend is really important. And so there's the friend. And this is kind of what happens is you can end up with a trunk full of rocks, fossil rocks, and equipment like rubber boots for wading in creeks and insect repellent for keeping the chiggers at bay and helmets and backpacks for equipment and so on. So a lot of the experience is the thrill of the hunt, and so, this is the point I want to make sure that you take home is that without the pandemic, I would never have had any of this experience. So the experiences I describe are all as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And so the thrill of the hunt, meaning, recovering a piece of a coral head on one side there, or a couple of golf ball sized brachiopod, a clam-like creature that it lived 455 million years ago. But there's also, there also can be, in my case, the intellectual stimulation of bringing these fossils home and otherwise studying about paleontology, something I knew nothing about or next to nothing about. And so you have these specimens you bring back and put under magnification. And I can't think of how many journal articles I've read on paleontology of Southeast Indiana and Southwest Ohio and North Central Kentucky. Because they all share this unique geology and fossils. But you also get the opportunity to discover places. And so one of the places, probably the coolest place that we discovered as part of this, that Cindy and I discovered, was a place called Madison, Indiana, which is down on the Ohio River. And here on one side, we have a natural feature called Hanging Rocks that has a waterfall. It's right along a road. it has a waterfall pouring off of it, and you can walk right behind the waterfall or even drive a car behind the waterfall. And of course, the ceiling of that hanging feature is filled with fossils. And then Cindy's also in the picture. We found, the lovely downtown, historic downtown of Madison, Indiana, which was once the capital of Indiana, early capital of Indiana. And it also, we found outdoor dining in Madison. So. And we also have met new friends. And so some of those friends are little creatures like this salamander that I met while digging in the side of a creek stream cut. And this little salamander had its home there, and I disturbed it, but was gentle with it so that it could find a new home nearby. I also discovered the dry dredgers, this fossiling collecting group, a club that had been established in 1942. And because of the pandemic, they're based in Cincinnati. Because of the pandemic, all their meetings became Zoom meetings. And suddenly I was able to attend and participate with these fossil collectors that knew everything you could imagine about the fossils we were collecting. But we would never have been able to participate were it not for Zoom. And then also sharing those fossils. And here's a picture of me and my hand holding a fossil up where I posted it to their private Facebook group. And we share these things and talk about them and what are they, and just try to understand better what it is that we're hunting and things about it, which is really cool. It's been really cool. But that is not, it does have trials and tribulations associated with it, such as a fall I took off of a cliff in a road cut and got all scraped up, or the time I twisted my knee outside of Richmond, Indiana, by stepping wrong on some loose rock, or the fact that most of our lunches that we had while out fossiling were eaten while sitting in the front seat of a car because of the pandemic. We'd go into the local Subway sandwich shop and pick up lunch. And Cindy knows my order very well because she's gone many times in there to pick it up. And we'd enjoy it in our laps, except in warm weather where you could enjoy it outside, but there was a lot more cold weather than warm weather. But all that in, there's a certain amount of wonder that can come from this. So take this kind of ugly looking gray rock, you can just start to see a little bit of a fossil on one side. But this wonder is what you can discover by a closer examination or a little bit of work. In this case, 2 trilobites become apparent after you grind away some of the rock and pick between the little ribs of the trilobite and apply a little bit of varnish to the fossil part of the specimen. So it's been quite a journey. And I think good news and bad news is I may become more active in fossil collecting. That's the good news. The bad news is it may be because we have to go back to more social distancing. So that's my story. Thank you all and my sharing.
It's very cool, Dave. I'm pretty sure you can continue this interesting hobby even if the pandemic went away, but we do want you and Cindy to be careful out there. So no more scrapes and scratches, please. I don't think we have any guests today, which is kind of remarkable. I don't remember a Rotary meeting where we never had a single guest. However, I do want to give a shout out to 2 new organizational members. As you all know, we have a number of local businesses and nonprofit organizations that are members themselves of Rotary, and they bring different people to be their organizational representatives every year. And so I want to say hi to Patrick Smith and Isidore James Torrey. You both give a wave, who are 2 of the 3 new reps from the NAACP. Thank you both for being with us. Now, housekeeping. I want to thank our producers, Michael Shermis, Aaron Davis, and Natalie Blaze. The producers are those people who keep the Zoom meeting going. The roundabout reporter for this week is Glenda Murray. We have a few birthdays this week. Happy birthday to Phil Eskew, August 19th, Hank Heichema on the 20th, and Chris Kroll on the 23rd. Couple of cool member anniversaries. Susie Graham has been a member of Rotary for 8 years, and Jean Emery, 19 years with Bloomington Rotary. I've got a few announcements. Tomorrow night will be our first new member orientation in the last 2 years. So for any new members who have joined in the last 24 months, and I'm really grateful to Alan Barker and his wife, Liz, who are holding a cookout for us at their home. Looking forward to that tomorrow. There's a communications committee meeting today right after the meeting, and a board meeting this Thursday at noon. I regret to report that the district has determined that RILA will once again need to be held virtually this year in October. So I know this is a big disappointment for Lauren Snyder, who is the chair for RILA for the district, as well as Joy Harder and the young people involved. But I know it's the right decision to make, and everyone will be safe, and it'll still be great. Now, I would like to ask Sarah Laughlin to report on the results of our Teachers Warehouse supply drive.
Hi, everybody. Well, it was another banner year for the supply drive. And so just a few numbers for you. 5767, the value of the supplies collected, that was actually 6,321 items. And those of you who were there know that filled up many, many grocery carts. $1,500 in cash donations for a $7,267 total value, and 19 Rotarians involved in that. So I would ask you to stand up, but I think that won't work so well. So how about if I just read the names? First of all, Ron Barnes, who is the TW board president this year, Bill Brown, Jim Bright, Kate Cruikshank, Marcus Debro, Leslie Green, Hank Heichema, Owen Johnson, Bill Oates, Art Omick, Amy Osajima, Judy Schroeder, Connie Shakalis, Jim Sims, Tina Swanson, Hank Walter, Marilyn Wood, and Charlotte Zitlow. Thank you all so much for being there. If you were on the site, you know that you heard lots of compliments from people about Teachers Warehouse, and also people who said they had heard about us on the radio. If you were driving around collecting supplies, you know that we were filling up those bins faster than you could get around and back. And if you were working at TW, you know you were able to relive your elementary school days, smelling those new boxes of crayons and counting the wonderful new pencils and everything. There's just nothing like it in the back to school week. So thanks to everybody for all your support for Teachers Warehouse. Our warehouse is full, and that will probably get us through the fall semester. So thank you.
Awesome. And thank you, Sarah, for your longtime leadership of Teachers Warehouse.
My pleasure.
We now have time for Happy Dollars to benefit Teachers Warehouse. It's easy. You just raise your hand and say, I'm happy because ... You give a little donation to Teachers Warehouse. It's easy. Any takers this week?
I'd like to go first, if I may.
Marcus.
Yes, two $10 Happy Dollars, if you will. One, I got an opportunity to work with Mr. Bright, and he is such a jewel, such a gentleman. I'd like to donate $10 to Teachers Warehouse in honor of Mr. Bright. And then the other one, I had, we were collecting items, and there was a woman that went into the store, and she said, I'll be right back. She walked out of the store toward her car, didn't have any packages for herself, but she picked up some things for Teachers Warehouse, which really touched my heart. So $10 go out to this lady for doing that, making a kind donation. And so that's a total of $20. 10 for Mr. Bright 10 for this other guest that picked up supplies.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Tina Swanson, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm still not used to Zoom meetings. I'm going to chip in $5. We're on vacation up here in Michigan. My daughter got to spend a few days with us, and this is my second Rotary meeting of the day. I found a Rotary meeting because our friend up here, I found out, is just becoming a member of a small meeting up here. So I went to a sunrise meeting too. So I am happy.
Above and beyond the call of duty for Rotary. Thank you. Dave Meyer.
I would like to contribute $5. Make that $10 on behalf of IU students that are returning. Apparently the law school is already back, but the undergraduate students returning face-to-face for education. I think that is wonderful for them. They have suffered, and I think I'm really happy for them to be able to have this experience again that is so wonderful at Indiana University, Bloomington. Thanks.
Wonderful. Who else is happy?
It's Connie's here. Connie. I'd like to give $5 for that fabulous reflection. That was so cool, especially Dave, when you showed at the end what's hiding inside the rock that we had no idea was there. That was wonderful. And it goes perfectly with the tree talk that is coming.
Anybody else? Raj, yes, Raj Hadawi.
Well, this last week we had a very bad weather. We have lousy statistics of vaccinated people in North Carolina. We have a higher number of hospitalized patients for the COVID. I am happy it will be behind me soon. I contribute $10 for that cause.
Thank you, Dr. Hadawi, and your guest.
You saw her.
Anyone else?
I'm trying.
Charlotte, where are you?
I don't know. I'm here someplace.
There you are.
Okay, I'm going to give $10 because this morning, a woman in her late 70s came with her tools in her purse and fixed the flap of my table so that my table can open up. And what I'm happy about is that there are people who are doing things no matter how old they are, and that they are enjoying the pandemic by doing things they've never done before and enjoying them. I think we're making the best of a bad deal.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. I see that Diane Shoemaker is with us today, and I want to give her a shout out as the third new member from the NAACP. Sorry, I missed you before, Diane, joining with Patrick and Isidore. Welcome. Okay, so I think that will do it for the preliminaries. I would like Michael Shermis to introduce our speakers for today.
Great, thanks, Sally. This will be a delight for me. First, let me get the formal stuff. Sheryl Woodhouse is a co-founder of CanopyBloomington, has 25 years of experience founding and growing organizations with an eye on sustainability and social impact. She was a park ranger at Grand Teton National Park and the founder of sustainable recycled paper making company, if people remember, Twisted Limb Paperworks, before she began helping other businesses as a consultant and chief operating officer, most recently for PR firm Rock, Paper, and Scissors. She also serves on the board of Greenways Foundation of Indiana and spends a lot of time outside traveling, cycling, and hiking. Having grown up in Chicago and a lover of both cities and the natural world, Sheryl is inspired by the beauty and health benefits of trees and green infrastructure in urban settings. And Hannah Gregory graduated from the O'Neill School of Public Environmental Affairs at Indiana University with a BS in Environmental Science in 2019. She serves as the former Environmental Practices Coordinator for IU's Landscaping Services, where, among other sustainability projects, she conducted the second comprehensive tree inventory of IU's campus, which involved mapping and collecting data on 12,000 plus trees. The subsequent analysis completed by her and a colleague is actively being used to leverage funding for and inform tree maintenance routines, priority parking locations, and preferred species list. She is a research associate for the Environmental Resilience Institute Urban Green Infrastructure Group, where she assists in processing and analyzing urban tree inventories, including the city of Bloomington's. So I had a great conversation last week, a couple of weeks ago, with Sheryl and Hannah, and remembering Sheryl from the other projects we've connected on, and was delighted by what they're doing with Canopy Tree Bloomington, and I suspect that you all will really enjoy listening to them talk. So I will turn it over to them now. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us today. We're super excited. Go ahead and share my screen. Sheryl, you're muted. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. And thanks to everybody at Rotary. We really appreciate you guys giving us the chance to talk today. Hannah and I are super excited to talk about Canopy. Like you said, we're a new social impact organization here in Bloomington. I founded it this past winter with Dr. Sarah Mincy, an urban forestry professor at IU. And I'll be honest, I told the people in the small breakout room, I'm not an expert on trees. I just love them. They've been an important part of my life and work. But really my original interest in the organization was to provide a simple and concrete way that everyday people like us can address climate change. And what I've been learning for the past 8-9 months is growing and managing an urban forest is anything but simple. And also what I just find really fantastic, the more I learn about this organization that I helped start, is that there's so much more to it than addressing climate change, and that there really is the benefits of trees in the urban environment go on and on and on. And for me, on a personal level, bringing the benefits of the forest into town where we live and work and spend most of our lives is becoming more and more important. So let me talk about why we need Canopy Bloomington, because I think when you look around town, everyone is thinking, but I see trees everywhere. And I think everybody can really agree that we enjoy a fantastic quality of life here in Bloomington. Bloomington it's beautiful, walkable. We have easy access to outdoor recreation, independent restaurants, art galleries, cultural events. And we might not think about it, but trees are a major contributor to our quality of life here. And it's easy for us to take them for granted, but the reality is that the tree canopy is in decline for a number of reasons. You all probably can guess them. Storms, age, development, pests, disease. There's lots of different reasons, but it's critical for us to address the decline in many different types of ways. I mean, we need to make sure that we are protecting the established trees to maximize their life expectancy. We also want to make sure we're planting a variety of tree species so that if one particular pest comes along, we will not have a significant chunk of our forest decimated because we have too many of one type of tree. And the other reality is climate change, and that our local climate is changing. It's getting wetter, warmer and wetter, and we need to plant trees that will thrive in this warmer, wetter climate. And I think another thing that I really have been learning as a layperson, and a very important reason we need Canopy Bloomington, is that we can't just solve the problem by putting more and more trees in the ground. Once we plant trees, they have to be maintained so that they can grow up to do the job that mature trees are meant to do. And it's easy to think that the city of Bloomington can take care of this, but the reality is there are too many trees for the city of Bloomington to maintain without citizen involvement. And one small example is this year, the city's urban forestry team had a list of 3,000 trees that need pruning, and because of their staff size and time limitations, they will only be pruning about 1,000 trees this summer. So there is absolutely a need for volunteers and citizens to get involved in just maintaining the trees that we already have. So before Hannah starts talking to you about a lot more details about trees, and specifically the trees here in Bloomington, just kind of would like to summarize for you the mission of the organization, and that is to maximize and sustainably manage our urban forest for the many benefits that trees provide: environmental, economic, health, social, quality of life benefits, but also trees are just one ingredient in an urban forest. There are many different types of green infrastructure that Canopy plans to introduce eventually. Green walls, green rooftops, rain gardens, bioswales, things like that. And another thing that's extremely important to us as an organization is focusing on tree equity and community engagement. And tree equity really means that we are going to make sure that we plant and manage as many trees in our poorest neighborhoods as we do everywhere else in town. Because like almost every urban center in the country, Bloomington is not really an exception. When Hannah will show you a map, there are less trees in our neighborhoods, in our economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, and we need to fix that. And of course, community engagement is super important, establishing a very robust network of volunteers and paid youth tree tenders to take care of our trees, both on private and public land.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you first just about some general benefits and importance of trees. So we need to protect and grow Bloomington's urban trees and canopy for the important benefits that trees provide. And we also want to preserve Bloomington's reputation as a tree city. We've had a long-standing reputation with this designation by the Arbor Day Foundation. And trees not only make Bloomington the place that it is, but they also contribute to numerous environmental, social, economic, and health benefits. And just to kind of list a few of each of these, some environmental benefits of trees are stormwater management, temperature moderation, and energy conservation. Some social benefits are that trees can encourage outdoor activities. They can help enhance environmental literacy and also improve community ties. Some health benefits are that they can bring positive mental health effects to people. They can reduce heat stress risk. They can boost the immune system. And also they can provide nutritious food for trees that, fruit and have nuts. And some economic benefits, lastly, are that trees can help increase property values for homes. They can also reduce energy costs for buildings and homes that they're in close proximity to. And lastly, they can help increase tourism and bring more visitors to local businesses. And because of the intersection of these benefits, trees can also be a way to address social and environmental inequities while simultaneously making cities more resilient to climate change impacts. So the graphic on the left is just a Twitter screen grab that I saw a while ago and thought it was super interesting. So this is an image of two blocks of the same street, two adjacent blocks, one with trees, one without trees. And as you can see, the temperature reading of the street on the left that has trees is about 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And then comparative, just a block away, the street on the right that has no trees is about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's a huge difference in temperature between these two, parts of the street, even though they're in close proximity. So the benefits that trees provide do depend heavily on the tree's age and size. And additionally, we want these benefits that I mentioned to be spread over space. So the services of trees should serve an entire city and community, and also over time. So services of trees should span generations. And just because an urban forest looks really great right now and provides a lot of benefits now doesn't mean that it automatically will in the future. So we want to sustain these factors, and that is what will create a sustainable and resilient urban forest. Over time, we lose trees just to natural senescence, and factors that Sheryl mentioned, like disease and other environmental stressors. And we need to be able to replace those trees so that the young trees that are replaced can eventually grow into mature trees and provide the benefits that mature trees do. So I'll explain this graphic quickly. So the solid black line and the dotted black line represent tree benefits with versus without maintenance. And the solid gray line versus the dotted gray line represent the cost of trees with and without maintenance. So as you can see, the solid black line is much higher than the dotted black line. And it also, maintenance of trees can extend the life of trees while also making them maximizing their benefits. So we can ensure that trees reach this stage by caring for the trees properly, especially when they're young and in that first 3 years of their lives. Young trees take a big initial investment, as you can see on this graphic, because of the formative pruning and watering and staking, just the things that young trees require to be able to thrive in those first 3 years. But once it matures, it will return that investment plus more because it also won't require maintenance. So. But it takes people who care and who can have supporting resources to make sure that these tree benefits are maximized and also that they're spread equitably across our city. And then just to piggyback off of the conversation about tree benefits, there also are some other important factors to consider other than just planting like the tree that's going to provide the most benefits, especially for homeowners who are making these tree planting decisions on their own for their own property. So before planting a tree, homeowners should choose the site that they want to plant the tree in first before choosing what size and species of tree they should get. So if you want to plant a large statured tree species in your yard, then you won't want to plant it closer than like 10 feet to your house. And sometimes planting a large statured tree, like a giant oak tree, just isn't feasible because of space restraints in your yard. But if you do have like a wide open space with no conflicts in your yard, then it's good to consider planting a large statured tree versus a smaller one. And then also something important to note is that large statured tree species do require more maintenance to begin with and to end with. Once they reach the ends of their life, they will require quite a bit of maintenance versus smaller ornamental trees, although larger trees do provide more benefits that we've been talking about. So that's something to consider. But small statured trees are less of an investment and they can still contribute to canopy cover and also provide benefits, specifically raising home values with the aesthetic appeal that small ornamental and flowering trees have. And homeowners can refer to Bloomington's approved species list. It's in the Bloomington Tree Care Manual when determining what tree species they should plant in their yard. And also this is something that Canopy can help consult you on. So I want to move away from a more general context of urban trees and talk about Bloomington's urban forest and canopy. So Bloomington's current canopy cover overall, so between public and private land, has a potential to grow by 23%, and 16% of that 23% is considered a high priority planting area, as designated by Davie Resource Group, who performed the 2019 Bloomington Tree Inventory. Our urban forest provides nearly $2 million in economic benefits to the city on an annual basis through benefits like stormwater management, energy savings, and carbon sequestration. And even so, that number still doesn't, it leaves out aesthetic values that trees provide, and also additional benefits like mental health relief that we really can't place a value on. And lastly, the healthier and more mature an urban forest is, the more benefits it can provide. And Davey Resource Group found that Bloomington's canopy and urban forest is overall in a fair to good health. So there's definitely room for improvement to make sure that our urban forest is resilient for generations to come. But it does take people who care and can take action now to ensure that that happens. And additionally, as Sheryl had mentioned before, we want to make sure that the benefits of our urban forests are equitably distributed across Bloomington. And that's an effort that we particularly want to focus on with Canopy. Sheryl talked a little bit about tree equity, but just to go over it again, tree equity ensures that all people living in a community have enough trees and tree canopy cover and the benefits that those things provide. And an unequitable distribution of trees in a city can actually exacerbate social inequities. And American Forest recently came out with the tool. It's the map that you see on the right. It's called the Tree Equity Tool. And what this does is look at, I think, 6 different factors, a few of which are income, current canopy, and heat index. And what they do is they take all those factors and calculate a single score out of 100. And this is on a block group basis, but they also do it for, entire municipalities. So Bloomington has a good average score of 84, but a closer look on this map here shows that there are some areas in orange. So those are areas that are lacking canopy cover, and also areas that are low income and have other compounding socioeconomic effects. And just for comparison, some other Midwest cities of a similar size to Bloomington, like East Lansing, Michigan, Appleton, Wisconsin, and Champaign, Illinois, have tree equity scores of 88, 82, and 80 respectively. So Bloomington's kind of right there in the middle. And it will take a lot of trees to bring these areas that you see in orange in Bloomington up to the average score of 84. Let alone raising that average score as a whole. But we want to do that, by starting small in the neighborhoods that need trees the most. So by analyzing canopy cover data from the Bloomington Urban Tree Canopy Assessment Report, the same one that this data is from on these maps here, and also using American Forest Tree Equity Score data, we did find that socioeconomically challenged neighborhoods in Bloomington do lack canopy cover as compared to neighborhoods and block groups with high tree equity scores. So we want to prioritize planting in these neighborhoods. But first, we plan to reach out to neighborhood associations and community leaders in these neighborhoods to gauge interest in a planting event. And we do recognize that there are studies of similar nonprofits to us that go in and plant in these low-income communities without determining if these communities were interested first. And that not only created like a burden for the communities and a negative association with trees, but it also led to failure of those trees that were planted. So we will take the steps to ensure that our neighborhood plantings are successful by first reaching out and gaining trust of the communities that we want to plant in, and make sure that our planting events have an educational lens so that we can teach residents about the benefits of urban trees and also how to care for trees on their private property. And lastly, only planting what we know we'll be able to care for. We want to make sure that all young trees that we plant have the proper care that's going to be necessary in their first 3 years to get them established and allow them to grow into thriving, long-lived, mature trees. Sheryl, you're muted.
Sorry, to kind of just give you a quick overview of how Canopy plans to reach our goals. We expect to start a youth tree tenders program, which is very similar to Keep Indianapolis Beautiful's program. where high school kids get paid as part of a professional development program to learn how to manage trees over the summer when they're not in school. We also think that a huge part of our program is educating homeowners and developers and kind of recruiting them into the mission of the urban forest, hosting neighborhood tree planting events, and of course, planting and taking care of trees on both public and private land, establishing other green infrastructure projects like we talked about earlier, and then partnering with other organizations to help us reach the goals. We're very excited about a partnership we have with the city of Bloomington. The urban forester, Aaron Hatch, has been a huge help to us, and we will be partnering with them on a project this fall. So some ways you can help is we need volunteers to be tree planters or pruners. Our first event, like I just said, is in collaboration with the city in the Matlock Heights neighborhood. They're a neighborhood that had come to the city after losing a bunch of trees from storms and age recently. And so Canopy will be getting our feet wet with that project in collaboration with the city, and we need volunteers. We're still developing our board of directors, and if you have any interest in serving or know of people you can introduce us to, we would love those introductions. And of course, if you like what we're about, please just spread the word either on social media or in all the conversations you're having with your friends over dinner. We really appreciate that. And we have to ask you to follow our social media, please. We're going to post the sites up here for you right now. Hannah and I would love to answer your questions and also hear any comments or feedback you have about your experience and concerns about trees in your neighborhood. You know, as we develop and we're creating a brand new organization, I think it's important for us to really hear people's relationship with trees, how they feel about it, what your own vision for Bloomington and the urban forest is here. So questions or comments, we'd love all of them. And again, thanks a lot for your time, especially fitting us in at the last minute. It's been wonderful.
Sheryl and Hannah, thank you so much for your presentation. Congratulations on this new venture. What questions do we have from the audience?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, I moved away from my house recently, and I had wonderful trees, and they were mixed. I had a huge pin oak and a beautiful tall tulip tree and an enormous bald cypress. And I wanted to know whether it seems we took good care of them. We had somebody come every year to take care of them, and I worry about them. But I wonder if those are good trees to have. They seem to have done well over 40 years that we live there.
Yeah, those are actually trees. So bald cypress is personally one of my favorite species of trees. One of my favorite trees in Bloomington is that grove of bald cypresses along the Jordan River on IU's campus. But those actually, it's funny that you mentioned those species because those are actually the species that IU Bloomington, I had helped develop the species list that they're using to plant now. And those are trees that they're actually planting more on campus because those exact species are supposed to be doing, or are projected to do better in Bloomington's projected changing climate. So hopefully those trees continue to do well. And that's great to hear that you had kept up with their maintenance and stuff.
Now I have to make sure that the purchasers of the house do follow through.
Thank you, Charlotte. Hey, Hannah, if you wouldn't mind taking your slide down, then we'd be able to see the full.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Who else has a question?
I do.
Connie.
Sheryl and Hannah, that was wonderful. Just really so informative. I have a million questions. I will pick my favorite. Volcano mulching. I'm seeing it everywhere, and even the landscapers are doing it.
Yes, I know that's something that I've noticed as well. And I'm going to keep referencing I use campus just because I'm so familiar with the trees there. But as I was doing the tree inventory, I was fixing volcano mulch. But yeah, that's something that I definitely will be having my eyes on, because I know that that can cause a lot of rotting at the base of the tree and contribute to a lot of problems. So that will definitely be part of our educational series, is how to mulch properly. And also fixing the trees in Bloomington that do have volcano mulch.
Thank you. I wonder, this is awful, because I was in a 4-year college program of horticulture in New York. So it's just, it's one of my passions. And when I see it, I want to get down on my hands and knees and scrape it away. I guess that's really rude, right?
No, I do the same thing. So people might look at you funny, but you got to do what you got to do.
Go for it, Connie. Let's see. Patrick has a question.
Yeah, so I know your focus is on trees. I was really intrigued with the your data as it relates to issues concerning trees and such, particularly in low income areas. And I don't know if you've done any correlations or matching with if there's a relationship in respect to trees and other environmental issues that, particularly as they exist in low income and particularly perhaps minoritized areas of, if not Bloomington community, perhaps other communities. But say, for instance, what
was that?
That's not good.
Okay, I think that's gone.
Okay, but particularly in respect to if there's any correlations you may have noticed in respect to other environmental issues like pollution, or anything like that as it relates to low income areas. I know sometimes low income areas have higher incidences of pollution, but I didn't know if there was anything that you may have noticed in a way with how it may relate with lack of trees.
Yeah, so this is interesting, because this is something that I want to start looking into for Bloomington specifically. I have done research into some association with tree health and things like brownfields and air pollution for Indianapolis, for the work that I do for the Environmental Resilience Institute. And I've found, it's not published information yet, and I still need to do statistical analyses on stuff, but I have seen some patterns of poor tree health and in areas that have really high, brownfields or air pollution. So I would like to do an analysis like that in Bloomington as well, because I know there are some Superfund sites that could potentially affect tree health. So,
and also food deserts was the other area I was going to ask if you ever considered that, but food deserts also.
Yeah, and we do have food desert data for Bloomington, so that's certainly something that I can look into. Thank you for bringing that up.
Tina Swanson and then Michael Shermis.
Hi, I was just going to relate that part of our home lot is wooded, and we did not realize until we had a tree of life, I think it's called, that had gotten started, and I guess it's invasive, and we didn't know that until we realized when we cut it down that it was invasive. It just comes back on.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have any programs to educate people about things like that, because now I'm starting to see it everywhere. Yeah. And I don't know if people know that they're going to go through what we went through trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with, I use dealing with both the Bradford pear and tree of heaven, because once you cut them down, they literally resprout even stronger. So it's really hard to control those species. And I definitely want to, start a homeowner's education on invasive species, because it's the easiest to treat them when they are smaller, but usually some pesticides do have to be applied. It's called kind of stump painting, where you kind of paint a little bit of pesticides on to finally kill that stump, which I know is kind of a controversial thing, but yeah, I definitely want to have education on invasive species, because tree of heaven, especially, I've seen pop up everywhere on the sides of roads and railroads crossings. And it's a big bummer, because it does look pretty, but you know, it has nice flowers, but it takes control of areas like that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I definitely, that invasive species is something that I really am passionate about controlling. So I definitely want to involve that in our educational series.
Good.
As the person at the city who fields all accessibility concerns from city residents, I get a lot from sidewalks that have been raised up by tree roots going underneath them. And I'm assuming that it's not your responsibility, it's the city's, to plant trees near sidewalks that roots go down instead of out, which is what a lot of the problem is. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but how does that figure into what trees you suggest when you're planting these thousands of trees that we will get in Bloomington? Is there going to be any relevance to that kind of issue for where and how you plant trees?
Yeah, so from my perspective, a lot of the sidewalk issues that come from roots pushing the sidewalk up are, I think there are scenarios where the tree was there first and then the sidewalk came after. So there are new distance rules put in place by Bloomington about how far away trees have to be from sidewalks to kind of curb that issue. So that's something that, you know, we'll definitely be following when we plant trees, and also making sure that we don't plant you know, a tree that will eventually be enormous and kick up the sidewalks from years down the road in a spot, you know, a tree long that's not big enough for us to hold a tree like that. Because yeah, I have noticed that issue of sidewalks being upturned from tree roots. Just not good for the sidewalk or the tree.
Hannah and Sheryl, would you be able to stay a few minutes after the meeting? I know we have at least one more question from John Vanderzee. If that would work, does that work for you, John? Then I'll go ahead and close the meeting. But again, thank you so much. I really appreciate how you've also made it easy for Rotarians to know how we might be able to participate in the good work that you've planned. So thanks, and we'll be sure to get all of that information out in our newsletter.
Thank you guys, really appreciate it.
Really happy. So in honor of your presentation today, Rotary will be making a donation to Pantry 279. Next week, everybody, we're returning to the Frangipani room and to Zoom, and we hope to be doing the virtual double meetings for the rest of the semester. Our speaker will be P. Da Vinci, a beloved local Black poet, rapper, music producer, and owner of the business Get Healthy Productions. So let us close this meeting by reciting the four-way test +1. Of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, fair?
Is it fair to all people concerned?
Third,
will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth,
will it be
beneficial to all concerned?
And fifth, is it fun? Thank you all so much. Have a great week.